book is not always for stories. Sometimes a book is a weapon. Its pages are not filled with adventure or knowledge, they are filled with poison. Imagine a book made of paper and ink, but its words are not for learning. Its words are a guide for murder. This book taught people how to hate. It taught them how to fear their neighbors. It told them it was right to hurt others. This happened in a dark time. The year was 1487. A new machine had just been made. It was called the printing press. It could make many copies of a book very fast. Before, books were slow to make. An idea took a long time to travel. Now, a bad idea could spread like a sickness. And in 1487, a terrible idea was printed again and again. It moved from town to town, carried in the hands of men. The book had a name. It was called the Malleus Maleficarum. In our words, that means the hammer of witches. The name itself was a promise of violence, a dark tool for a dark job. A hammer can be used to build, but this book was a hammer to break people. It promised to crush something evil that hid in the shadows, but what it really did was give people a reason to create their own shadows. The man who wrote the words was named Heinrich Kramer. He was a man from the church, an inquisitor. His job was to find people who did not follow the church's rules. He traveled from place to place, looking for sin. He was a bitter man. He was full of anger and hate. He believed evil was everywhere, hiding inside people. He especially believed it hid inside women. He wrote his hate down on paper, turning it into a set of rules. The book was split into 3 parts. Each part was a step on a dark path. The first step was to make you believe. It argued that witches were real, and they were working with a dark power to harm everyone. The second step was to make you hunt. The third was to make you kill. It was a simple plan, a clear guide to turn suspicion into death, and that is why it worked so well. The book's first part was a trap for the mind. It stated that witches were real. It said this was not a story or a belief. It was a cold, hard fact. To question this fact was dangerous. The book said that anyone who did not believe in witches was a fool, or worse, they were helping the darkness. This forced people to accept the fear. It twisted old fears into something that sounded like holy law. It spoke of evil deals made in the dark. It made superstition sound like the word of God, giving terror a powerful voice. The second part was a weapon. It was a guide for hunting people. It told judges and priests what to look for. It pointed to shadows in every corner of a village. The signs it listed were simple things. A woman who knew about herbs could be a witch. A woman who lived alone was suspect. A person with a strange mark on their skin could be guilty. The book gave power to hate. An angry neighbor could use its words as a weapon. Their lies and whispers could now send someone to their death. No one felt safe. The final part was a manual for cruelty. It explained how to make a witch confess. It said that hurting people was the only way to find the truth. It gave permission for horror. It gave step-by-step rules for torture. It described how to break a person's body and spirit. The book turned these terrible acts into a cold, official process. Its logic was a nightmare. If an accused person did not cry when they were hurt, the book said it was proof. It claimed only a witch, helped by evil, could withstand the pain without tears. There was no right answer. Before, witch hunts were small and scattered. But the printing press spread this book like a plague. Its poison seeped into towns and cities, turning fear into a system that would last for 200 years. This is the most chilling truth. The book did something worse than just tell scary stories. It made a system for murder. It was a machine, carefully built to turn fear into rules. The Malleus Maleficarum gave hate a loud voice. It was a voice of power. It told good people that doing a terrible thing was the right thing to do. It twisted hearts and minds with its dark words. The book pointed its finger. It aimed its poison mostly at women. The hateful words said that women were weaker than men. It said they were more foolish, and so they were the first to listen to evil. This terrible idea became a weapon. It meant that neighbors looked at each other with new fear. Old women, young women, mothers, and daughters were now the main targets. The book made them something to be hunted. The shadow of this book was very long. For 200 years, the words inside were used as proof in courts. The terror it started did not go away. It only grew deeper and darker. Tens of thousands of people were killed. Families were broken. Whole towns were filled with a quiet dread where no one trusted anyone. All of this pain grew from the hate one bitter man wrote on paper. A book is just paper. Words are just marks. But this story shows us a grim truth about our world. It shows how a single hateful idea, once it is written down, can become real. It can walk out of the pages and bring suffering that lasts for hundreds of years. It proves that some words are weapons, and some stories refuse to stay buried. The Hammer of Witches is just a book made of paper and ink. The real poison was not hidden in its pages, but in the people who chose to read it. They believed its dark words and turned them into real screams. It is a cold reminder that the most dangerous weapon in history is not a sword, but a story that people decide is true. The book's words did not stay on the page. They walked into villages and homes. A neighbor would look at a neighbor with new suspicion. A strange mark on the skin, a failed crop, or a sick child could become a death sentence. The book gave people a reason to fear each other. Trust between people began to break. Was the old woman who lived alone a witch? Did the healer who used herbs have a secret dark power? The book turned normal life into a hunting ground. Everyone was a possible suspect, and everyone was a possible accuser. The trials were not fair. The book told judges that a witch might not feel pain. This became a reason to use terrible tools to force a confession. People were hurt in awful ways until they said what their accusers wanted to hear. Their words were not truth. They were just screams. The worst part was the mind games. The book taught that if a person denied being a witch, it was proof they were lying. If they confessed, they were guilty. There was no way to escape. The trap was made of words, long before any chains were used. For 200 years, the fire of the witch hunts burned. But how could such a thing ever end? A shadow so dark and so wide does not just disappear. The poison had sunk too deep into the world. Slowly, some people started to ask questions. A few brave judges and thinkers began to see the madness. They saw that the confessions were forced by pain. They saw that the evidence was just fear and stories. The lies started to fall apart, one by one. But even when the last fire went out, the book's work was not done. Whole families were gone. Towns were left with empty houses and bad memories. The book, The Hammer of Witches, had left deep cracks in the world that would never fully heal. The stories of the witch hunts became ghost stories. They were whispered by parents to children as warnings. The fear did not vanish. It just went back into the shadows, waiting. It became a part of the land itself, a cold spot in history. The ideas in the Malleus Maleficarum were simple and terrible. They taught people to hate what they did not understand. They taught that it was right to hurt those who are different. This dark lesson did not die with the witch trials. It is a chilling thought. A single book written by one hateful man could give power to the worst parts of human fear. It shows that a written word can become a weapon, and that some ink is mixed with blood, its stain spreading across time.